Good evening. It is a brand new season of Cut Deep. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 3. The theme for Season 6 is Unbridled. We're running this season straight through to the elections. We're rehashing the issues, meeting potential new candidates, crunching the solutions. It's talking season, but we're here for action only. The concept of Cut Deep was developed with a focus on encouraging the wider public to think more in depth on issues that plague us. Encouraging persons to have a voice and to use that voice to invoke change. Cut Deep is an interactive platform cutting through the noise and political rhetoric. It is raw, uncut, challenging you to think critically. What do the issues mean for us? What part do we play? It is a platform that will move the Virgin Islands toward unified, integrated success. I want to welcome back Blossoms Flores as our support sponsor for Cut Deep. I want to thank those of you who continue to support this platform from behind the scenes. Thank you. Cut Deep is a multi-platform show covering social and political issues in the BVI. Its viewership continues to grow, reaching more than 6,000 viewers weekly. It cuts across demographics and captures an international audience. For advertising opportunities, email cutdeep@gmail.com or call 284-440-3234. Supporters may also donate to Cut Deep and the issues it supports through our ATH Mobile 284-440-3234, checks or cash. Donations will be kept confidential. Shaina Smith Archer is not a stranger to this platform, to the political arena, or voicing her position on issues in this territory. She's our guest tonight, and I look forward to our conversation. We'll take a quick break and come right back with the show for tonight.
Live Stream Cable TV is here with CCT Live. Access over 80 channels that you can watch either at home or when you're on the go. And don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Rewind and watch in your own time. Come to CCT today and ask about our 1-month free trial offer. CCT Live. Bring it home.
At Blossoms, our floral experts use their creative flair to design beautiful and exotic bouquets. We are the on-island wedding experts, and for boating enthusiasts, we can help you to add a touch of floral elegance, life, and color to your yacht, mega yacht, both locally and internationally. We've even worked with celebrities. At Blossoms, we continue to deliver smiles and watch our customers bloom.
Good night and welcome back. It is a brand new season of Cut Deep. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's Season 6, Episode 3. As mentioned before we went to the break, we have Shaina Smith Archer sitting in studio with us tonight, and we're about to dive into a long conversation on issues in this territory. You will find for this season that there is a part 1 and a part 2 to most of the shows that I'm going to do. There is a lot to cover, and I want to make sure that it happens. So I'm going to dive right in with Miss Shaina Smith, and we are going to pop this thing off. Shaina, I don't know if I have to say to you to introduce yourself, but I will, because I think that more and more people are joining the platform every time, and just for familiarity purposes.
Yeah. And we know that's our talk show housekeeping, so we have to do that.
Correct.
So good evening to your audience, or even good day, whatever time of day they're viewing. As you said, my name is Shaina Smith Archer. I am a project manager by trade. I'm also a talk show host, community activist. Yes, I've also contested in the past 3 elections, actually. Mm-hmm. So no stranger to that realm of things. I also worked with the public service for about 8 years after returning home from college. So yes, I've been around for a bit.
Yes, yes. And you went straight to one of my questions. Well, kinda. And I wanted to say yes. Before we get into it, there is a bit of house cleaning that I want to do with Shaina tonight. So, Shaina, you did say you stood in 3 elections already. That would take us to our early 30s.
Yeah, about that.
Which, yes, which is great. You've stood up really early to be a part of the conversation in the territory. You haven't been successful thus far in terms of taking a seat in the House. Why do you think that is? Honestly, like the type of feedback you would
That
get.
I've gotten? Well, the main feedback I have gotten is that persons haven't been able to relate, or I should say across the board. So, persons that we're more familiar with in terms of our peers from school, is one set of demographics. And then there are those that are younger than us who, they wouldn't be as familiar, but we take it for granted, maybe because we have a talk show. People are familiar with us. So I think that has been one of the main things, and that as time has progressed, I've been more intentional in terms of making sure when I communicate, I'm communicating, basically down to a teenager's level.
Correct.
Because they also need to be aware and understand what it is I'm trying to communicate. So that has been one of the main things for me. And being visible, not just for being visible's sake, but truly being in the community and living in the community is one of the other things in terms of feedback. Because, I find it strange sometimes persons say they don't see you. But, until you start to notice a thing, then you start to see it all the time.
Right.
So it's one of those things, again, that's part of, what I've decided to do differently. Because it doesn't take anything away from me.
Yeah, no.
It's not trying to make me into someone that I'm not. Because that's me. I would be in Anigada and people would say to you, well, why are you up here? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I be? This is, this is all part of the Virgin Islands. This is where I live.
Yeah.
It's not about, well, you're only going to see me in West End or on Tortola. But anywhere for me, something is happening, I feel interested and I want to be involved or participate. I'm going to catch the boat, catch the plane, and
you're going to do that.
And go.
Yeah. It's one of the things that... because I kind of pay keen attention to all the players in the game, even for years. For years, I do that. And if somebody's going to enter the ring, you kind of want to hear how people think, feel. If they weren't successful, people will say, oh, yeah, she didn't win because, right? So that is definitely some of the feedback that I've heard over the years. And I'll be honest with you, other feedback is, oh, she's standoffish. She don't talk to people. And we like to use that phrase, right?
Yeah, I think that was a strategy. That was a specific strategy in the 2015 election. Again, because I wasn't around maybe in the community as much. So that was the use where, so nobody could ever bring an example and say, well, when I tried to approach her, that was her reaction.
Right.
But it was more so we're kind of preempting and putting it out there, so it's already in people's mind that you can't approach her, which was never the case. Yeah,
I think that I'll say for me, you and I have developed a relationship over the past couple years, I'd say. And I'm getting to know you more. I'm getting to see beyond, quiet Shaina, because I think you're quiet. I don't judge you because people say the same thing about me, that, oh, but she doesn't say hello as much as I smile and say hello to people, right?
Yeah.
But you and I have gotten a bit closer. We talk about the issues a lot. We talk about where we want to see the young people and so forth. So I've gotten to know you a little bit more. So I can say now for me, should your name be on a ballot, you would definitely have my vote. So I feel confident in saying that. But yeah, people want to be able to relate more. I get that and so forth. So and now
while you're on that, I would also like to thank you for your support last time. Because remember, you did endorse.
Yes, I did.
My candidacy last election. So if I didn't say before, I'm saying it now. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
All right.
I try to do my homework and, keep any personal, because it's not what I feel or what I want. I think it's what the territory may need. So I try to go from those angles. Do you intend to contest the upcoming elections? Have you made a decision?
Yes, I have, and I still plan to continue. And there's also something, Cindy, from the day after, people would see you and be like, don't give up, don't
Yes,
give up,
yes.
continue, you're needed.
Yeah.
Your ideas are very valuable, and we would love to see them there. But it is, as the system is, you have to convince 51% to give
of
you,
course.
that vote. So
Yeah.
it's something that I do want to continue to pursue.
Yeah.
I've told people, it's not an easy road.
Yes, it's not.
And I think if I had an option, I'd say, I'll groom somebody else to want to pursue it. But I am like, no, I still not seeing my country where I want it, Cindy. And I'm the type of person that believes if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Correct.
So I don't believe on sitting on the sidelines and complaining, but it is something where if I can help in a particular area, then I'm going to get involved. Sacrifice is definitely part of it. I mean, people think politics is all glamour and glitz, but it's so much far from it,
So far.
But yeah, if I can help and be a part of the solution, then that is my main motivator, I would say.
Yeah.
For this time around, in terms of where we are as a country. I don't say we are at a we're not at a junction. We keep talking about being at the crossroads. We're at a junction now where it's a make or break deal for me. That's what I feel. This is make or break. And we
totally
have
agree
to
with you.
make some solid decisions in the next 12 months
Or
about
less.
where we want to be as a country.
Well, we need to be making those decisions right now.
Well, that's true. We're
so
already
that
late.
we-
Yeah.
Correct. So then, this question wasn't there, but it popped in my head as I asked that follow-up question. What would you say to those people who say, oh, but she's unstable in terms of she's on this party, this party, this party? That's a very valid question out there.
And it is, and I'm glad you brought it up because we do need to clear the air as it relates to my history. So in the first election in 2011 that I contested, I was part of a team called the People's Patriotic Alliance, PPA. That team was not as large. It was one of those situations where internally we weren't able to pull together the critical mass that we needed. But again, we felt passionate enough to say, well, let's continue with the message. It's about one country, one direction. This is about developing the people. This is about seeing a Virgin Islands for Virgin Islanders, and having those policies that supported that. So we went out, we contested. It was 4 of us, all at large. And we did that. In the next election, which would have been in 2015, I was asked by the National Democratic Party to contest in the 1st district. First off with that, I really still wanted to maintain at large because I find my thinking is always nationalistic. I believe if the country is doing well, the districts are going to do well as well. But it can't be districts are doing well and the country
It's not.
is
right.
not. So that's not the situation we want to see. So I thought about it long and hard because again, for me, in the first instance, when I joined a new team, it was about, I see the need for change. The establishment is part of the problem.
Right.
Partisan politics or party politics, as we call it, it wasn't doing service. It was doing us a disservice.
Right.
Right? So I gave it a lot of thought, spoke to advisors, and it was like, go for it. And the first district was where I contested in 2015. Now, within that group, again, because of my principles and my beliefs, there was disagreement in how we were moving forward. And I'm a woman of principle, I believe. And when it comes to integrity, I like to believe that it's important to live what you value. And if something isn't crossing certain boundaries, you have to be able to say, you know what, I can't support this anymore. And that was basically the decision that I made. So in 2019, a few of us decided we're going to move forward in a different direction and again contest as part of the Progressive Virgin Islands movement. And that's essentially what it was. And for those who may not be aware, our political history has always been that new parties come from incumbent parties.
Correct.
So Virgin Islands Party, the founders were part of United Party. The National Democratic Party, some of the founders were part of
The PIP.
Virgin Islands Party.
Correct.
So to have a situation where you have now persons there saying, you know what, we're not in agreement in terms of, again, the values, the mission, the vision, why we are here, then therefore, we're not going to just, again, go to the sideline, but we want to be a part of the solution, and this is what we put forward to the people as you have another option. But campaigns being what they are, of course, we were labeled as NDP2.
Yeah.
And it was all part of the strategy. So again, understanding campaign strategy, I wouldn't say it wasn't, it was very strategic, but it was something that was mislabeled that people don't understand our political history in terms of how things have come into being. So that's essentially my story. And it's been, I think it's always been, out of every experience, I've learned more about myself, about my community, about people, how people are motivated, what their thoughts and ideas are in terms of what they want to see for the country. Because it's really not for me to come forward and say, this is what needs to happen, but to have the conversations with the community and go forward and represent that. Because it is what the people as a representative, that is what you're there to do, represent.
Correct. Well, that was good. And so I can easily say before we go to a break that, Mrs. Shaina Smith Archer has officially announced that she will be contesting the next election. And so when we come back, we're going to drill her in with some questions. We'll be right back.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service.
Alright, do enjoy the rest of the day. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes, Sonny.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Hold on there. You must have cut front of people.
It's okay. I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you?
Yes.
You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top up power?
Welcome back. If you're just joining, tonight we have Mrs. Shaina Smith Archer in studio with us, and we're focusing on a range of troubling issues across the territory. If you miss anything, this live video will be available in a couple hours, and you'll be able to rewatch it then. Shaina, thank you again for being here. Thank you for that information that you just shared with us in terms of, what
My
it was
journey.
like. Yes, your journey
Yeah.
to this point. In your attempt to hold a seat in office. You're very passionate about the issues. You have 2 shows going, the Vigilante Dialogues, and you also have,
Regional.
Territories Talk, that's you, or it's a shared?
So it's a shared platform.
Yeah. So you also have that, which I think is really good, where it's really the territories talking within this region.
Yes.
On political issues, social issues within each of the territories. You're often making Facebook posts on your Facebook platform about issues that are plaguing us, subjects that may pop up. If you see something untoward, you bring it out, and there's conversation around that. I want to hit on some of those issues close to you and some others that you continue to highlight on your page. So I want to start out with...
You look like you have a long list there, Cindy.
I have a very long list. So this is definitely going to be a part 1 and a part 2 because
goodness.
I can't see us getting past the next 2 questions in less than 40 minutes. So let's talk about infrastructure.
Okay.
That one is a big one. I think it goes to your learning and training, your education,
Engineer.
and your correct. So let's talk about infrastructure.
Okay.
Infrastructure, where we are, where we need to get to, how we gonna get there, etc.
In terms of what needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, let's start at the left corner, right? So physical infrastructure is one of those areas when it comes to, again, running the country. We'll use that phrase. That your infrastructure is supposed to support basically the people living here, right? Because it affects the quality of life. So it runs the gamut from reliable electricity, reliable water supply, your ports of entry, the roads. Roads is always a more popular thing because most of us use it. I'm not sure if everybody drives, because that's the funny thing. Even if you don't own a car, you drive.
Yeah,
because
you
whether
drive.
it's by bus or catching a ride.
I mean, even the scooter riders, bicycles,
Yeah.
where you don't have the lanes, you have the sidewalks that are non-existent or falling apart. So the entire
everybody
infrastructure,
experiences
correct.
those roads. So that tends to be the most popular one that's used. But there's so much more to our infrastructure that we have to address. But the first thing for me is always, what's the objective? You know, with project management as my background, in anything I do, I find myself always asking the question, but what's the purpose of the roads? You know, when we talk about public safety and health, all right, from a safety standpoint, our roads are unsafe. So it's not just about potholes for me, but it's about, like you mentioned, there's no bike lanes. But yet we want to encourage people to live healthier lifestyles, buy a bike, go riding. And even that can turn into sports tourism, because there was a point where we used to have the biking competitions that would come in and visit, and you know, it brings economic activity. So we're serious about our infrastructure. We have to look at first, what's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of having recreational facilities in the different communities? And then, you know, there are nets missing off of the basketball hoops. There's not enough light on the courts. I mean, even look at the sports complex. I don't even want to touch that. The last time I was in there, I was so disappointed, because it was one of those projects that I worked on between 2003 and 2011 when I returned home from college.
Right.
You know, and so I know the amount of work that went into that facility. And the facility is not, maybe might be 10 years old, but it shouldn't be in the shape that it's in, because we have not properly maintained it, one. And then with the hurricanes, we have now since not repaired it. So, you know, basic things like that. And again, you're taking away from one, the people's development. So whether it's our athletes being able to have practice, compete in local competitions, hone their skills, and go off to schools maybe on an athletic scholarship.
Right.
You know, so there's so much that goes into what infrastructure should be about. So the latest project that has created quite a buzz, or at least one of them, is the West End Ferry Terminal.
Right.
I was disappointed in that one when I first posted about it, because a local company did not get the project management and design. Because I feel that we are in a place in our development where we have the resources on the ground, but understanding that when we are taking somebody else's money, it comes with strings, essentially. And that one string was that, you know, it has to go out for international bid. For whatever reason, you know, that they were able to submit a lower bid as an overseas company than the locals, you know, that I question. And I've had conversations with persons who have actually put in bids, and it was like, you know, it's quite possible it was on the bid, but the jury is out, so we will wait. But I don't want us to get so caught up with West End, though, that we forget that Rotown Ferry Terminal needs to be fixed and upgraded. The Virgin Gorda Sea Terminal, same thing. And Igata still hasn't gotten theirs, because when we built that dock, maybe just under 20 years ago, we were supposed to get a proper ferry terminal that would go along with it.
Right.
And, you know, the facility that was recently done in Just Van Dyke, you know, again, there's been a lot of conversations around the functionality of it. You know, did we put down what is really needed there, or did we just do something so we can check it off of a list?
Yeah. In your mind, where are we failing with our infrastructure? I mean, I have my own idea in my head.
Your theory?
I have my own idea, my own theory in the back of my mind. because it doesn't make sense. Now, if we're talking like way back in the 60s, in the 70s, when you don't really have exposure, like our leaders didn't really have exposure. They tried the best they could. We're talking about a day and age in the past 20 plus years where we've gone away. Our leaders are educated. They travel. You know, they crunch numbers. Well, I would like to say that they critically think. So, where are we failing?
Where are we going wrong?
As it relates to our infrastructure?
I could give you several reasons. I'll start with the first one. First one is maintenance. So we like to build grand buildings and then don't put money in the budget to maintain them. Because again, I know of situations where departments would ask, well, you know, we need X amount of money to maintain the central administration building.
We definitely want to, I think like that's number one when it comes to anything in the BVI. And it's not even government alone. Like I see people, a mortgage is my whole life, right? That's your whole life. And I see people build a house and they never maintain it. It falls apart. They never put a slap of paint on it. So, I mean, the same mindset will go into the house. Maintenance is a problem across the BVI.
And that's something where, again, we have to understand these things are supposed to retain or increase in value. But it has to be maintained, you know, even if it's a coat of paint every year. But when you have serious deterioration, like say, for example, the years upon years when the admin building roof was leaking, and that created a mold situation, and people were knowingly becoming sick. But it wasn't until years after that it was finally admitted, one, that there was a mold problem, because I came across the report as president of the Civil Service Association back in 2006 that admitted, a consultant came in and said, you have black mold, you know. But to say that mold exists everywhere and some of the other comments that were being made, you know, it was really a disregard to public health and safety again. So maintenance definitely, I would say, is the biggest one, because it's never about not enough money, Cindy. It is about priorities. So if we're saying that to keep the public healthy and safe, keep our employees healthy and safe, we need to put $1 million every year towards it. If it's not used, hooray. But at least it's there and we're not struggling or patching it up, you know, trying to keep it together to keep those things. So I think that's one of the big things with physical infrastructure. So whether, again, it's the roads, it's your electrical system, it's the water supply system, we have to maintain it. We shouldn't just wait until something is broken, because that's what we do, we firefight. We wait until it's broken and then we run, go, and then when we see the price tag for the repair, you know, we're holding our heads versus, you know, maintenance would probably be a third of that, you know, and do that. The second thing now is having people in place to do the maintenance, you know. So if in the case of the roads, you know, when we look at our public works department, water supply, we look at our water and sewage, do they have the persons as well as the equipment and material to maintain that public infrastructure?
I saw the honorable member for the House, Honorable Neville Smith. He was saying that we should put a maintenance department in place. The feedback on that was interesting from the for the BVI, period, for everything government. But the feedback was really like the civil service has a maintenance department. We have the public works department, which is really a maintenance department. So we weren't sure, but that was his suggestion. I talk a lot about the public works department when I would say in its heyday, and they worked really well. And those guys worked really hard. They maintained the BVI. I consider, because you look and you could see that they were doing what they needed to do, even from the aspect of littering. And yes, we need legislation as it relates to that, and we need it to be enforced. But those guys were so committed to their work. If they were driving around on a truck and they saw people on the road, they just take it up. So yeah, it goes back to where you started initially in terms of where do we want to be? What are we building for? Do we understand our population and its needs and so forth.
And I want to just touch on that point because that says to me too, that's one of the things where the need or the importance of public education shows up. Because it's important that we know and understand the purpose of the public service. Every department in the public service has a mandate. So, for example, to say you need a maintenance department, whoever is responsible for developing, creating, producing a thing is responsible for its maintenance.
Correct.
Right? So again, if Public Works is putting down roads, even if we outsource some of the services, they are the ones that should be giving the engineers and the architects and whomever else that will sit down and do the designs for the roads, making sure, again, we have the proper markings. I mean, one of the craziest things for me is the lack of street lights right now. You know, I was so excited when we got solar street lights going around the bluff, going to West End, because I kid you not, you turn off your lights around there, you can barely see the front of your car.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that hurts your nightlife as well, because I feel like that's the reason people don't venture, especially women. Well, I can speak for myself. I don't, because I always think, oh, I would like to go down to wherever, Puzzles, whatever. But if something happens, I'm in that car
and
by
it's
myself.
possible, you know.
Absolutely, and it's just black. I would freak out.
Yeah, you can't see the
So that thought, I stay on the side where
after sunset, you stay east. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
No, but and that again, what are we doing these for? We are doing these things for improving the quality of life. The problem we have with our infrastructure, though, that I think also needs to be thrown on the table, and people are going to nod their head because they know it's very true, is we only pay attention to infrastructure projects when it gets closer to election time.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when we look at campaign promises or saying that these were promises fulfilled, the majority of it is pouring concrete someplace.
Yeah.
You know, and again, that cannot be the end all and be all about running a country. You know, because how did this massive wall or, you know, these little areas where we go and we patch up to look pretty a couple months before an election affecting me for the last 3 years?
But what people need to also understand in terms of that, it's like, that is not something to praise a government for.
No.
That's natural maintenance
of the country.
Of a country. I saw one article put it in this way. It's like you go to an ATM machine, take out your money, and you thank the ATM machine for your money. Like, it's your money. You're supposed to be able to withdraw. Those are things that they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So,
and to kind of tie in something else, because I always talk about one of the things we need to start doing when it comes to building a country is the integration of everything. So we can't talk about physical infrastructure and not talk about education, because it can tie into each other. The thing that just popped into my head, though, when you spoke about the Public Works Department is, again, I remember that maybe 20 years ago, there were a set of engineers and architects that we trained, meaning tax dollars sent them off on scholarship. Where are they now? You know, because we aren't valuing our people when we put them in position to do certain jobs. We're basically draining the service of the talent, I would say, and it goes into the private sector. But you have to pay them more money now on the other side than if you had said, okay, you know, your engineers starting out at $30,000 coming out of school, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
You know, so those are the things now where we have to start to look at our scholarship program. And national scholarships, for me, I want to advocate for them being more STEM focused. So it's the sciences, technology, engineering, maths, and we're going to throw in arts. So we're going to make it STEAM, right? Because these are the areas of deficiency that I see now. And the way to develop our people, because that's building the country, is through our education system and where those things are supposed to be. So we really can't talk about better infrastructure if we aren't having the people in place, because if we keep bringing in people on contract, you know, so that you can get certain projects done again for political gain and not serious about the development of our country. We had conversations maybe about 3-4 years ago about a national physical development plan. I know a lot of people may not have heard about that one. And that was specifically saying, how is the development of the country supposed to look physically. But if we didn't have the National Development Plan, I don't know how this was supposed to stand on its own. So it's something where we had the cart in front of the horse, in my opinion.
As usual.
So now that we've caught up, and hopefully we'll have a National Sustainable Development Plan soon, then we can go back and tweak this physical development plan that says to us, you know, over the next 10, 15 years, this is how we are supposed to physically build the country. So things like, again, the ports of entry, the airports, schools. I mean, you throw everything in there because all of it is physical infrastructure.
Correct.
And you budget for that. So you have a list now of your projects and you know the cost. And you're able to say, over the next 10 years, I'm going to spend $20 million. We'll figure out how to fund it. But the important part is to plan, cost it, and then we can make decisions accordingly, you know, and not just a one-off project here so we can go up on the podium and say, yay, you know, we just did this, we just did that. Again, like you said, these are things that, that's the regular maintenance of the country. That's a given. So we shouldn't be giving
kudos.
Yeah, kudos and points for these physical projects that aren't going anywhere. I mean, somebody just this morning was speaking to me about what's not happening at the marketplace in Rotong.
Yeah, actually, last week, I think COVID gets blamed for everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the minister mentioned something about COVID holding up the progress of the marketplace. I don't know.
In what way, though, Cindy?
Shaina did get upset with me because I just go right over to, you know, our sister territory over there in the Cayman Islands. And I like to talk about Cayman because I've spent a lot of time there and I understand their issues too and blah, blah, blah. But we continue to complain about COVID here and how COVID has hampered this and hampered that. And it's the worst pandemic in 100 years and blah, blah, blah. Cayman has gone through COVID just like the rest of the world. And they have done their constitutional review. They've had an election. They've done all sorts. They've done all sorts of things during the same pandemic. They're now in the middle of going to their second phase of what Georgetown, which is their city, is gonna look like, because they're moving to make it pedestrian friendly only, and so they're onto that. And all we do here is, oh, COVID, put on your mask. Don't go in there. I'm going to give you a ticket. The task force is out. Like, really? So we don't have any excuse about, oh, COVID.
Yeah. Because even pre-pandemic, these were issues.
Correct. So I think the bottom line when I look at this administration is that they didn't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. They go by the fly. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that, again, working in the public service, planning was like a bad word to a politician. But
I think even necessary. To the civil servants in there, because
but
they're the ones that actually,
pressure.
They're the ones that actually come out and run for office. If you look at the history of our leaders, they were former civil servants. And there's a lot of bureaucracy inside the civil service. And I mean, look at, even for them to have a meeting. They can't put a meeting together. It's always the last minute. It has to be within their work time. And it's just.
So on that note, here's what I would volunteer to kind of help bring us along. We'll talk about the public service. Because again, they're part of the equation when it comes to building the country.
No, we'll get to the public service down there.
But just the touch on that though would be, like you're saying, it has to be, again, what do they understand the objective is supposed to be? Because if we can't get something as basic as a community meeting pulled off, right? Where we're saying, okay, what's the objective of this meeting? Who is the target audience? You know, how much time do we need to give to notify people? Because again, a lot of us believe the country is running off of WhatsApp. But there are some people, they don't and cannot afford data. So therefore, when they
I mean, this is even before
they get the little Wi-Fi
time.
and or any form of communication. Well, before that, they would put it on the radio station that not everybody listens to. And again, when the turnouts are poor, we blame the people rather than saying, well, did you put this out at least 5 days before and put it in all different channels?
Usually a day or two before, and you're like, you miss it.
It's a day, like hours before, sometimes I find out about some of these meetings.
I used to think that it was intentional, but I don't think it's intentional.
No. It's a lack of planning.
It's
a lack of planning.
It's definitely planning.
That's where that boils down to. Because again, if you sit down early enough and say, all right, I need to do this at least in a week. So even if you're under pressure to say, well, I would rather have it this week, this week really isn't realistic if you want to achieve the objective. Now, if the objective is just, again, to check off and say, we had a community meeting, 5 people turned out, and so that's on them. Versus saying, I want to engage the community, get as much people out as possible. Therefore, we're not going to just have one meeting. So you could have a meeting this week, but that can't be, again, the end all and be all. You have to say, well, all right, over the next 8 weeks, we'll have our meeting every other week to give people time, because the people that come to the first meeting will tell another set of people that weren't there so they could come to the second meeting. And that's how we gain momentum. But I think too is training, Cindy, because when we talk about management versus leadership, it's very different.
Yes.
Very different.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking more strategic as a leader, because I'm trying to accomplish something,
Correct.
not do something.
Correct.
And that's more what managers tend to do.
Yeah. All right. On that note, we're going to take a short break and come right back.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service.
Alright, you enjoy the rest of the day. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes,
Good
son.
morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Over there. You must have cut fun topic.
It's okay. I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you? You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top-Up Turn-Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top-Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?
Live stream cable TV is here with CCT Live. Access over 80 channels that you can watch either at home or when you're on the go. And don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Rewind and watch in your own time. Come to CCT today and ask about our 1-month free trial offer. CCT Live. Bring it home.
The wait is over! CCT Fire is here! Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Welcome back. If you're just joining tonight, we have Mrs. Shaina Smith Archer in studio with us, and we're focusing on a range of troubling issues. In the past few minutes, we've covered, about 20 minutes. We've covered infrastructure and a couple things. And so if you miss anything, however, this live video will be available in a couple hours and you can rewatch it then. We're going to get back to the questions because I have lots of questions for Mrs. Archer. There is a big one, a big one. I like to call this one a big one, but one that we just lay everything on the side, but mental health. That has been a troubling issue for years, for decades in the BVI. I touched on it last week on the show. We saw, it's a couple of weeks ago now, that the young man that destroyed these vehicles in town. What is your position on mental health in the BVI? It's the issue of it, where it comes from, the management, what we can do about it. What are we missing?
My
Four
vision.
big questions.
I know, Archie. I'm waiting for you to get them all in. Health and wellness for me is a high priority. I think it's even more of a priority than, again, physical infrastructure. And that anything that we do from a policy standpoint, meaning, what is our health policy as a country? Many moons ago, as I find myself saying now, we talked about chronic disease prevention, but you haven't really seen resources, money, and people being thrown to attack this. But we would talk more so quickly about, let's expand the dialysis unit because we're seeing more cases of kidney failure.
But where are those cases coming from?
Exactly. Versus going to the root cause and saying, well, to stop you having to expand the dialysis center, we need to get people to understand what is causing it.
Correct.
So the diabetes, hypertension, poor eating habits, and mental health.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't taking care of yourself emotionally and mentally, the same way we take care of our physical bodies, you're still going to break down, essentially. It's like you can have healthy people having nervous breakdowns.
Correct.
And I was to a session last week, Friday, actually, it was like a social, and we had a speaker in that was talking about depression. And from their explanation of it, I'm like, wow, quite a bit of us are walking around depressed.
Oh, yeah.
But we're actually functionally depressed.
Yeah.
So we're able to function in our daily lives. We're able to go to work, take care of our families, maybe even go out and socialize.
But Shaina, I've spoken, and I continue to speak to it, about the number of persons in this territory that take medication just to function, just to survive the day.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that it's an underlying situation, like you mentioned, and it's only when we have episodes like we had, with somebody doing something completely out of the norm, and you realize, this person has what we say mental health issues. And it's not just about saying that, somebody's crazy and it's a one-off. We have to start to take stock. For me, statistics is always a big thing. And the lack of it,
has to be.
is part of the problem. Because if we can't define how big this problem is, we can't even begin to address it.
Correct.
There were times when we were talking about actually building what we call the chronic mental care facility. So within the hospital, on one of the floors, we have what we call the acute care. So because I was involved in the project, I know about the ward. Yeah, it's called behavioral health. So these would be situations where somebody might have a breakdown, and that's where we basically nurse them back to health. But for those cases that are now going to be prolonged, they need their own facility. And those would be more long-term care for rehabilitation. So it's like you're not just going to put persons there and kind of like lock them up. But we're still hoping that they can be reintegrated back into society after rehabilitation. So we have to start to look at those different programs, again, starting with what is our health policy? Because again, you have sick people, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, you don't have a country. That's the long and short of it for me. I can build the biggest buildings in Sydney, have the nicest roads.
Yeah.
But if my people from the oldest to the youngest, and that's the other thing, where we tend to forget our young persons, which we saw as part of our response to the pandemic, where the mental and the emotional health response was kind of last on the list.
Yeah.
The physical...
Well, I don't think we think about it. We're still in that
denial.
Oh, when I was your age, I did this and I did that, and those things didn't bother me. You can't measure things like that, and we continue to do that.
Times have changed. Times have changed. And we need to learn more coping skills. So even again with the response that eventually came that said, we have to look at what's happening to our kids and how they are being affected by not being able to go to school for such long periods of time, and transitioning now to online learning. For some of them, a computer was a novelty because we made a lot of assumptions in it. And I think that's another thing that we do too well in the Virgin Islands. We make a lot of assumptions, again, rather than saying, let's get the data, let's get the statistics. What percentage are we dealing with when we talk about people being functionally depressive or having bipolar disease and not being diagnosed? Those are the cases that we really have to be more concerned about, where persons may be sick, but they're undiagnosed. And then once they've been diagnosed, what are we doing to support them better as a community, not just from the medical care system, but us as their friends and family,
Right.
as it were. And you don't ostracize them, because you know what used to happen, when we were growing up, it would be like, if you see them coming, you cross the street.
Yeah. Because of that's how it was labeled and handled, and
Yes.
you're kind of thinking, oh, it's a crazy person, they're
Yeah.
gonna hurt me.
And it might be contagious, so we have to cross the street. So, and again, that's the misinformation I find. It's still out there,
Yes, absolutely.
It is still out there. So we have to start to do, our Ministry of Health has to do more education every day, as far as I'm concerned, to make sure people understand the importance of mental and emotional health in addition to your physical health.
Yeah.
Because you are a tripart being.
Yeah.
You know?
We continue to talk about health overall, and during COVID, all health comes into question, our mental health strategy, our physical health strategy, health overall, because one of the big things with COVID was the vaccine, and a huge part of the population saying, why do we have to take a vaccine? How come you're not pushing healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, etc., etc. So it is something that is always on the table for us. We continue to talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what goes wrong
Planning.
when we run for office and we go into office. I don't really feel like I want to say, yes, I definitely think the government is a moving ship already. But you can't tell me there's nothing that you can do to motivate some kind of different mindset to get people excited about why they joined the civil service in the first place. These are Virgin Islanders that are supposed to love the Virgin Islands. So there must be some way to get them engaged and so forth, to get a new look.
You know what
on where we need to be.
From my experience, right? One of the key things for me was that, there were ministers that were a joy to work with, and there were those that, they had different leadership styles. And I think, though, for us in the public service, one of the key things was always having that sense of direction.
Right.
Because if one week we're working on this and then the next week we're working on that.
Well,
The lack of focus or clarity around what are we supposed to be working with. And then persons misunderstand and feel, well, we just need to be chasing everything. But the public service is that one continuous entity from political administration to political administration. That doesn't change. So again, if you're in public works, you still have to maintain the roads, maintain the public buildings, maintain whatever it is you have to do, or build, out the different projects, regardless of who the Minister of Works is.
Yeah.
And when they come now, they might change the priorities, but there are certain things that need to be steady. And I think that stability in the service, again, from a lack of planning, because again, if we come in and we say, after election, ministers are sworn in, you need to have a retreat with the permanent secretaries and come up with the holistic plan for the next 4 years. Things will change, but that is why you have a retreat every year, Cindy. Yeah. So you could check in, how are we progressing? Where have we gone off track? Or what do we need to add? And make sure that at the end of those years, because that for me is the one point that I am nervous about. We can get a national sustainability development plan, Cindy, that says this is what we want to do for 20 years. But if the service doesn't function in the way I'm describing now, 20 years is going to come, and you and I might be here having a conversation, or our daughters might be having a conversation. Yeah. This is what I heard my mom talking about that was happening before, because we haven't put the systems in place.
Correct.
And educated people, and educate our people, both in the service as well as on the street, that this is how you run a country. When we use the big words of transparency, accountability, blah, 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 blah. I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything to them. At the end of the day, the dysfunction when I go into a department and it takes me 6 months to get something approved that should take 6 weeks, and nobody feels there's a problem.
Right.
That's the problem.
Correct.
We should have for ourselves within the service standards. It's like, where are the standards? I don't know at what point they changed or shifted, But when I think about the management of the service, there's two levels to it. There's a performance management that the governor's group, or specifically HR department, is responsible for. And then there is the ministerial side of things, where cabinet is approving money, or I should say, they submit the budget for the House to approve, to say, all right, this is how much money we're going to spend for the year, right? And this goes back into the departments to be spent. But if at the end of every year, we're not asking them to give me a count of what you did or did not do,
Right.
but I am in here, you're in here asking me for more money again. That is another thing that has to change. So that's the culture of the service. So there is no, when we talk about accountability or lack of accountability, that's what it looks like. Because if I can go and ask for $1 million budget, Cindy, and then my annual report is 2 years late, how do you know what I'm asking you to do is actually going to be accomplished?
Yeah.
You see? So those are the things where we would hope, or would have hoped in the past, like you pointed out, past public officers would go into the service and fix it.
Right. But they're the ones who have it destroyed.
Yeah. But it's micromanagement. You know, you and I were speaking about this on a different occasion. Micromanagement is also a big part of it, because I can see where I've seen cases, I would say, when I was actually in the service and even now as a public person, where, you know, the ministers get frustrated. Why is this taking so long? Why is this taking so long? But that's the wrong question to ask. It's like, how do we get this shortened? Because people will give you a reason why it's taking so long, and it will sound plausible. But if I say to you, can this be done in a shorter time frame, and what do you need to get it done?
I'll give you a story as we're on the last 3 minutes, and they might kill me, but as we're on the last 3 minutes for this hour, we'll go into a part 2. I worked in the passport office when I had just finished school, and it's amazing to me because that was 20 plus years ago. And at that point, I knew I didn't want to be in the civil service. At that young age, I knew that I was solutions driven. It took about 3 weeks. The standard time to get a passport was 3 weeks. And passports will be done in like a couple days. It'll be done in a week if the person came in to check. The passport is sitting there, but the response from inside was, well, it's 3 weeks, so it has to sit there for 3 weeks. And I was like, why? Like, that is so weird, but yes, this is the type of
that's the culture.
Yeah, the culture that it was very interesting, but I mean, it taught me a lesson back then. I'm sure it's really much worse now, but it says how much work we have to do with our mindsets and, you know, all of that stuff. So yeah, they were just like, well, it says 3 weeks, so it has to sit there for 3 weeks. So
we don't call them until 3 weeks?
Yeah. Okay. And if they come in and check, even if it's ready, it's not 3 weeks yet. And I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense at all. Well, Shaina, this was a very good first hour. I want you to come back next week and join us for part 2. We're going to take part 2 next week with Miss Shaina Smith. We're going to get into deeper topics, more about the civil service and the public service, the economy, the marine industry, youth, and education. So tune in next week, and we look forward to seeing you then.
At Blossoms, our floral experts use their creative flair to design beautiful and exotic bouquets. We are the on-island wedding experts, and for boating enthusiasts, we can help you to add a touch of floral elegance, life, and color to your yacht, mega yacht, or super yacht. You can also find a wide variety of silk and dried flower designs, fresh cut flowers, local flowers, tropical blooms, fruit and gourmet baskets, chocolates, balloons, both helium and air-filled, various gift items, and an assortment of plush animals. With a floral experience spanning over 28 years, we have earned a reputation for excellence both locally and internationally. We've even worked with celebrities. At Blossoms, we continue to deliver smiles and watch our customers bloom.
It's okay. I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you? You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?